It has been another busy week in the world of cruising, with several cruise ships setting sail, the Norwegian Cruise Line CEO giving us his take on new safety protocols and procedures, as well as the line's forthcoming ship, as well as some disappointing news regarding the future of cruising. It was a roller coaster this past week. Don't worry if you missed all the announcements, because we're here to help. I'm DB from EatSleepCruise.com, and here's the latest cruise updates from all the major cruise lines. In some exciting news, MSC Cruises just announced that it'll return to service in the Mediterranean starting a week from today on August 16th with a Western Mediterranean cruise on the cruise line's flagship MSC Grandiosa. A second ship, MSC Magnifica, will begin Eastern Mediterranean cruises starting on August 29th. For this initial phase of the restart of operations, the two MSC cruise ships operating the Mediterranean will only welcome guests from 26 European Union countries. These cruises will offer guests full experience vacations with the opportunity to discover 5 different destinations during a 7-night cruise. The two ships will also be the first to implement the new comprehensive health and safety protocols that MSC Cruises announced in detail earlier in the week. These protocols have been approved by national authorities from the countries that the ships will be calling on. MSC Cruises' new operating protocols have been designed to protect the health and safety of guests and crew, as well as the local communities the company's ships will be visiting. This protocol has been developed to support the resumption of cruising in the Mediterranean. While this does not apply to cruising in the United States just yet, it does give us a look at what is likely to be required for Americans once the CDC's no-sail order is finally lifted. MSC Cruises will implement a digital check-in process to ensure a smooth and contactless embarkation. This includes assigning boarding time slots to allow for proper social distancing in the terminal. All guests will be required to complete a universal health screening, which includes 3 main components: a temperature check, a health questionnaire, and a rapid COVID-19 test. Any guest who tests positive, displays symptoms, or has a fever will be denied boarding. Guest capacity on board ships will be reduced to roughly 70%. Guest capacity in venues will also be reduced, and activities will be modified for smaller groups. Guests will be able to pre-book activities to assist with the crowd management and are advised to do so. Guests will now be served in all dining venues, including the buffet. Restaurants, bars, and lounges will be rearranged to allow for social distancing. For contactless ordering, guests will have access to dining and bar menus on their smartphones using QR codes. Yes, guests will also be required to wear a face mask in situations where social distancing is not possible. Face masks will be provided daily to guests in their staterooms and will be available around the ship. Lastly, guests will only be allowed ashore at ports of call if booked on an approved MSC Cruises excursion. On August 5th, Cruise Lines International Association announced that its ocean-going cruise line members have agreed to voluntarily suspend U.S. cruise operations until at least October 31st of this year. According to the association, they were taking this proactive action to demonstrate their commitment to public health and their willingness to suspend operations in the public interest. CLIA stated that it will revisit the situation for a possible further extension on or before September 30th. Or it could consider an earlier restart if conditions in the US improve and there's a possibility for shorter, modified cruises before October 31st. While a few cruise lines had already extended their cruise suspension to October 31st or beyond, like Norwegian Cruise Line and Princess Cruises, other major brands announced extensions following this CLIA statement. Namely, Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Group both released updates. Royal Caribbean announced it has extended the suspension of sailings for their global fleet through October 31st, with a few exceptions. Likewise, Celebrity Cruises has extended the suspension of sailings to include those departing on or before October 31st, 2020, excluding sailings from China and Australia. Carnival Cruise Line also issued a statement on the extension of its pause in operations for most cruise ships through October 31st of 2020 to comply with the CLIA voluntary suspension. The company also listed further cancellations on its website. Our friend Bill Panoff, editor-in-chief at Porthole Cruise Magazine, chatted with Norwegian Cruise Line CEO Harry Sommer this past week about several topics, including the future of cruising. In this exclusive video, they discussed the joint partnership with Royal Caribbean to form the Healthy Sail Panel. Mr. Sommer stated that the two cruise lines compete for vacation experiences, but never compete on guests' health and safety. He is confident that this panel will allow the cruise lines to employ measures to make cruising the safest vacation out there. While the widely discussed Muster 2.0 is one small focus, the panel's goal is to develop robust protocols that address pain points in order to improve the overall cruise experience. The cruise lines are looking to modify things like embarkation, muster, and waiting in line at guest services to make them better and safer. Mr. Sommer stated that if there's something that involves social distancing and can make the guest experience better, that's a win-win. Norwegian Cruise Line CEO happily reported that 99% of its crew is back home. He's also optimistic that it'll take no more than 3 to 4 weeks to get ships staffed and trained once travel restrictions have eased and cruising is given the green light to resume. He believes this to be true, partly because the whole fleet will not be sailing on day one. Bill and Harry also discussed the highly anticipated Leonardo class of ships. The good news is that the first ship will still be delivered roughly on time in 2022. While NCL is not ready to share many details just yet, Mr. Sommer hinted at different decor, new restaurants, and new activity concepts. NCL will start revealing more details on this new ship in early 2021, so stay tuned. Overall, Norwegian Cruise Line remains tremendously optimistic about the future. While some European brands have recently begun cruising for the first time since the shutdown back in March, these initial cruises are already experiencing cases of COVID-19. It was reported this past week that the Hurtigruten 535 passenger MS Oddmundsen had 4 crew members who tested positive for the virus. Cruisers on the ship's July 17th and July 24th cruises were notified and recommended to quarantine. Since then, at least 41 passengers and crew from 2 separate voyages on the Norwegian cruise ship have tested positive, while hundreds more are awaiting test results. Further, 1 passenger tested positive for COVID-19 on a Paul Gauguin ship in Tahiti this past weekend. The 20-year-old woman who was traveling with her mother was asymptomatic, but disembarked immediately. Other passengers were confined to their cabins, and the remainder of the cruise was canceled. Then, a passenger on the first sailing of Uncruise Adventures Wilderness Adventurer also tested positive. The cruise line was taking precautions, which included reduced guest capacity and a required COVID-19 test. However, while the guest tested negative on the initial test to enter the state of Alaska, he tested positive on the second one. This guest was also asymptomatic, but all guests were instructed to quarantine until the state of Alaska deemed it was safe for them to return home. Subsequently, the cruise line opted to suspend all future 2020 Alaska departures. Yet another ship, Sea Dream Yacht Club's Sea Dream 1, has also reported a recent COVID-19 positive passenger. While not officially cruising yet, crew on board several AIDA ships, as well as TUI's Mein Schiff 1 and 2 Costa Cruises ships have also tested positive for COVID-19. These outbreaks and positive COVID-19 tests on initial cruises do not bode well for the cruise industry. And there you have it. Those are all the breaking cruise news headlines from the past week. But of course, we'd love to hear from you. Let us know in the comment section below any announcements or updates we missed from the world of cruising. I'm DB from EatSleepCruise.com, and if you enjoyed this video, you know what to do. Make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, or you've been lurking around for a while and haven't done so, what are you waiting for? Make sure to subscribe down below and to click the notification icon. That way you get updated each week when we put out brand new cruise and travel videos. You can also say hi to us all over social media at Eat Sleep Cruise, and thanks again for watching.